Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Grow Your Business Smarter, Live Your Optimal Life TV show. Thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to welcome to our show today our very special guest, Shannon Daniels. Shannon is a friend to the show. For those of you who are friends of our show from back when we were a web show, back before we got picked up by this amazing network, Win Win Women, you will remember Shannon Daniels. She is a TEDx speaker. She's a best-selling author. She is a tech entrepreneur, and she comes to us with so much amazing talent. And she's going to talk to us today about what the real meaning of success is. She's going to talk to us about how to actually be successful in our lives and in our businesses. So I'm going to invite Shannon to come join us, come have some conversation with us. Let's chat. Shannon, welcome. Can you share with everybody, please, who are you and what are the wonderful things that you're doing in the world?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Dr. Davia. It's a pleasure to be here. Always love being involved in the Ladies Power Lunch network and group of fabulous women and men. And so basically a little bit about me as I come from a corporate background. I spent the majority of my career in sales and marketing, communication related fields because I'm a communication nerd. I have a master's in interpersonal communication and one of those weirdos that loves public speaking. And I also am a certified holistic health coach as well. So I've got a lot of different things that I've delved into. I am the founder and CEO of Incaptive. As you mentioned, I'm a tech entrepreneur. So I've taken that communication background and put it into work, into building a platform for virtual, hybrid, and in-person events with the goal of increasing audience engagement and making meaningful connections and building community between people. And also, as you mentioned, I am a TEDx speaker. I spoke on community being the true measure of success, which I know we're going to jump into a little bit today. And I am the author of a book, Water Your Practical Guide to Be Bad, Get Good, and Live Your Dreams.
And I think I do have a copy of Water Yourself here. So for people who don't happen to have ever seen this book, go get it. It's amazing. I love it. I love all the practical things that you talk about in the book. And also, I love to mention that you are also a co-author, co-best-selling author of our workbook. This is not just a book that you read and then you put it back on your shelf. This is a workbook, Answer the Call. It's a workbook for entrepreneurs, women in business to work through how you can get visible in your business. And so you are, well, get your business visible in the world, get your message out there, that sort of thing. So you're doing all the things. And I mean, people are probably wondering, hold up, record scratch, wait a minute. You are a tech entrepreneur, TED Talk speaker, author, you're holistic provider. How are you all these things? Like, tell us a little bit about this journey that you've been on. Now, I totally understand because been on this extremely circuitous journey myself, and I know and truly believe and understand that there is no knowledge that's wasted, and everything that you learn along your path is actually here to guide and help the ones that you're here to guide. So it's all amazing. But can you share with our beautiful, amazing audience exactly how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like I said, I started my corporate career in sales and marketing. I did 3 years stint as a corporate project manager. But in the sales and marketing side, I was really focused on sales and marketing in healthcare and insurance industries. And throughout all of this, I started my career really young. I was 19 when I actually first started working at Merrill Lynch. And right after I graduated from undergrad, I went straight into my corporate career and started climbing that corporate ladder real quick. And it was making lots of money. And I thought that was the way. This is how we have to be happy. We have to get this corporate career. We have to climb this ladder. We have to get higher titles. We have to make more money. But I found that the higher and higher I climbed, the more and more unhappy I was becoming. And it felt like something was missing. And I was also getting sick all the time. And I couldn't figure that out either. So I just started for my own purposes of healing myself, learning about health and wellness, ended up going and getting certified in it. Learned a lot of things about why I was getting sick between stress and food allergies and different things along that nature. And then friends and family asked me to start helping them. And so I did. And through all this, that's when I really started to sit down and write this book, Water Yourself. And I realized as I was writing this book in my corporate life that, oh my gosh, I'm making all this money. I'm supposed to be so successful, right, in my career because I've got these high up executive level positions in my late 20s and early 30s. I wasn't following my own advice of what I was telling people to do in this book, which is setting your goals, weeding out all these things that weren't important to you, focusing on the things that were bringing you happiness and were bringing you joy. And I quit my job. I was like, I have to follow this passion and follow this dream because I know for me, it sounds like I've done a lot of different things, but at its core, my two main passions are communication, finding ways for us as humans to communicate better with each other, build better relationships, and then helping others. So finding the purpose and passion in bringing those two things together has really been my journey. So when I left, I wrote my book and I started doing some health coaching on the side while also teaching public speaking and communication at the college level. And I think I was still
What
kind of
college were
figuring
you
things out.
teaching
While I
at,
love the
Shannon?
helping, I taught at Iona College in New Rochelle, and I also taught at Columbia University in New York. Yeah, so all public speaking and communication related courses. And then while I realized I love helping people, I also realized the health side of it wasn't really for me. And so I got pulled back into my calling of communication and found a way to use my communication and public speaking skills to help other entrepreneurs and individuals to use the mindset stuff that I had learned through my master's degree, through independent studies into positive psychology, as well as just my general journey in my health coaching certifications, to really use that, implement that, help people build their confidence, become better communicators, use that in a way to build their business. So I switched from health coaching over to communication coaching and consulting, and I still do a little bit on that on the side. And then in Captive, which is my technology business, really sprung out of that. I kept seeing the same needs over and over in my corporate life and my education life, as well as in my entrepreneurial life, of experiencing this disconnect between the audience and the presenter, ways to bring them in and make it more conversational, more engaging, more measurable. It just wasn't really there. And so that was the birth of Captive. So now I've kind of married, not kind of, I've married my passions for coaching people, working with them to help them find their confidence, unlock their potential, become better communicators, better public speakers, and in providing technology tools for supporting that journey as well. So it sounds windy and kind of all over the place, but all of the mindset stuff really plays into this, and the purpose and passion of helping others and helping us to make more meaningful connections with each other through communication.
So I see the relationship between, the communications piece and actually going into the direction of launching and Captive. But how does one even launch a tech company? Like how did that idea come about?
I'll let you know when I figure it out. No, it is not something. If you had asked me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, will you be running a company? I would have said that you were out of your mind. It's not something I ever saw for myself or anticipated for myself. But it was a problem that I kept seeing coming up over and over and over again. And I wanted to find a way to solve this problem of the disconnect between the audience and the presenter, or the teacher and the students, right? Or the business and their target audience. And I came up with this idea. I was just really frustrated one day, actually, after a conversation with a client at the time who was giving a big presentation. She's like, "Oh, when I get there, how do I do this? And how do I do that?" And these were all tech related questions. We had gotten the presentation down, we had done her slides, we'd done her deck. We had practiced, she felt comfortable, and it was these last minute technical questions about projectors and questions and follow up and measuring audience engagement and interest that made me sit down and go, you know what, this is not an unusual problem. I hear this a lot. So I sat down with the piece of paper, drew out what I thought my perfect solution would be. And I started just showing this around to people with no intention of doing anything with it. But I kept hearing, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, when can I sign up? And I heard that enough that I said, maybe I'm onto something here. So I knew I didn't know anything about technology. I went out, I got a technology advisor, someone who was actually on the ground floor of starting Priceline was my initial advisor to help me figure out, what do I do here? How do I build a technology product? Where do I even start? So mentorship, advising, and then also becoming part of an entrepreneurial community. I joined a co-working space where I was involved with a lot of people that I could partner with and help, and we were helping each other. So that was a big part in getting this launched and getting it off the ground. Taking this idea from an idea to inception required a lot of market research and making sure there was a market there for it as well.
See, this is
But
what
a lot of help along the way.
This is the deal. This is what I'm talking about. You had this life that allowed you to learn a whole lot across a lot of different platforms, but the core of what you were learning was pretty much one thing. It was all along the lines of mindset and communication and bringing community together. And you had in your mind's eye this solution, this amazing solution to a problem that you kept seeing over and over again. And you didn't have the tech know-how to bring it to fruition, but you had community around you to collaborate with, to have mentorship from, to bring that idea to market, to be able to be this amazing tech entrepreneur that I can say is my friend, is one of my besties. I am so excited that the power of community, the power of collaboration has been able to allow you to bring your expertise to the market in this way. And I think that this is an opportunity that is available to so many of us, but we sit back and we think, well, I don't know how, or I don't know what to do, or I don't have the support. Well, guess what, guys? You have the support. There are people in your sphere right now who are ready and willing to support you. And the answer to pretty much any kind of question that you can ask about where you need to go next with your business is always going to be, in my opinion, collaboration. See, hardly any episode of this show goes by where we don't say the word collaboration at least one time. I feel like it's my
Should we start keeping a tally? That's one.
Yeah, if anybody feels like having a drinking game, and just to be clear, we drink tea. Anybody wants to have a drinking game, every time I say collaboration, you could take a sip. So, Shannon, you're here today to talk to us a little bit about how we can achieve that success, because you're successful and you've been successful in a number of different areas. You've written the book about success and how to be successful, and it's not the traditional path that we're all thinking. This is not your grandfather's success, guys. This is, we're talking about this true success, the success that comes from your heart, the success that comes from, like you say, Shannon, watering yourself. So what have you been doing recently, Shannon, to water yourself, to have fun, to take care of your self-care recently?
Yeah, so I had not been following my own advice enough
Of
using my
course.
no muscle. So I have been exercising that no muscle more and more and more. I have been making sure to say no to more things that are taking up my time that I shouldn't be spending it on, or not that I necessarily shouldn't be spending it on, but that there's other I should be spending it on. And then I've been spending more time with family and friends, getting out, making sure that I shut down, walk away from the computer, going on walks at least once or twice a day to make sure I get outside and get some fresh air. Now the weather is getting nice outside. I went to Hawaii about a month and a half ago to visit family and go to my.
Awesome. Love
That
Hawaii.
was weeks in a beautiful place, yes, in a beautiful place with my family. And I've got all kinds of visitors coming this summer that I'm very excited about. My mom coming in a couple of weeks, my sister, brother-in-law, and their 2-year-old son, my nephew, are coming. I've got a friend that I haven't seen in years who used to live here, moved back to Germany. She's coming to visit with her husband and her baby. And then something my husband and I do every year that we've made into a tradition is go to the Newport Jazz Festival. So we're doing that at the end of July. So we have a jam-packed summer, making sure putting in
Ooh.
lots of time for the self-care and just to rest and relax and make sure to step away from all of it. Doesn't mean you can't work hard, but if you are just
Mhm.
going all the time, you burn it out and you just lose steam. You're not as effective, you're not as productive, you're not as creative. Keep going with all the if words there.
I know, I know. We probably should talk a little bit about this Newport Jazz Festival because I keep hearing about it, never been to it. And I like me some Newport, also like me some jazz. So let's talk about that. Oh,
Yeah.
the ear. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this idea of success. What is success anyway? Is it really a one size fits all? Like when my grandfather thought about success, he thought about, the house and the car and the boat and the all the trappings that would show some outward wealth to the world. But is that really what we're talking about here today?
Yeah, and like you said, I think success is not one size fits all. It's different for everybody. And that's really what I talked about in my TED Talk. First of all, as you heard in the beginning, I've had a windy journey. I've done a lot of different things. And I've learned that it used to be that when I went to high school, I had to go to college and get a degree in a very specific thing and then get a career that's what my degree was in. And get a bigger house, a nicer car, have the 2.5 kids, the dogs, all of that stuff. And I realized that that wasn't working for me. And I also learned that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to think, this is the route I want to go, and then say, wait a minute, that's not quite right for me, and try something else. And if that's not quite right, try something else. It's okay to have a bit of a windy journey until you really figure out where your purpose and your passion all align with what you're doing, whether that's in your career or in your personal life as well. And there's this idea of intrinsic goals and extrinsic goals. And what you're talking about with what your grandfather, how he defines success or looked at it, is how a lot of people look at success and define success as outward. They're basically extrinsic goals is looking for external validation, right? And so when you're looking for that external validation, it's things like how much money you make, how big of a house you have, what kind of car you drive, your title, all those things we've been talking about. Those are things that other people are measuring you on. But your intrinsic goals are those things that are personal to you, that have a deeper meaning. If we're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's leading up to that self-actualization point in the pyramid. And for me, I realized that corporate climb, making all that money, all of that stuff, that wasn't my success metric. I learned to measure my success on the mark that I'm leaving on the world. And that's what's most important for me. And so I challenged others to think about how you measure success. What is important to you? What are those intrinsic goals? And then how do you achieve those intrinsic goals? A lot of people think that, oh, if I'm successful on those extrinsic side of things, I'm going to be more happy, and therefore I can then have my intrinsic side of things. But then we get on this thing called the hedonic treadmill where it's never enough and you just got to keep climbing and getting more and more and more. And then it actually leads to a curve going downward of happiness. But studies and research have shown that the happier we are, the more successful we become in all areas of our life, whether that's family, marriage, different personal aspects, different professional aspects. And so most people think success, extrinsic success equals happiness and intrinsic measures being met, but it's actually the reverse. It's
Oh my
happiness
goodness.
first, focus on happiness, purpose. And once you have that level of fulfillment, that leads to greater success in all areas of your life.
I love that so much, Shannon. You know, one of my very, very closest, dearest friends, I'm just gonna throw her story out on Front Street without her permission right now. She is an internal medicine physician. She is the chief of medicine at her hospital. She, in all the ways that people would look at, she is the epitome of success. And one of the things that happened over COVID is that she was working back-to-back hours. She was in the ICU helping with COVID patients, you know, right through COVID. She was struggling with keeping medication stocked in her hospital. She even called me one day. I was here treating with pain patients here in private practice. And she called me one day and she was like, Davia, we are out of oxygen. Now, can you imagine you're chief of medicine at your hospital in the height of COVID and you're also out of oxygen? And she's
Yeah.
like, you won't believe what I just had to watch because we're out of oxygen. And she was like in tears. Long story short, she resigned from her position at her hospital because that's not the sort of situation that brings you joy. And she sent me a picture the other day of her toes up on her ottoman and like the TV in the background. And she's like, I'm home and it's a Wednesday in the middle of the day and I'm watching Netflix. I mean, oh my goodness. And she was happy, you know, and let me just say that it just makes such perfect sense because somebody else looking on might think, oh, how could she possibly resign from such a prestigious position? But the truth of the matter is that wasn't bringing her any kind of joy. And Shannon, I'm sure you have stories that you could share
Mhm.
too about situations that maybe you've been in, or maybe that of people that you know who've been in situations where it appears as though this is so successful and yet it's not. Do you have any
Mhm.
stories like that that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, well, just to back up with what you were saying about your friend, it's not a specific story quite yet, but when I was in my corporate career and decided to leave it to go do my own thing and write a book, I'll never forget. I'll tell you two aspects of the story. One, I went into the CEO's office. He's like, "Hey, come up, talk to me. Tell me why you're leaving the hospital." And I went in and I started talking to him, and he's like, "So where are you going? What are you doing next?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm leaving to write a book." And he said, "Wait, no, but what job are you taking? Where are you going?" I was like, "No, no, no, I don't have a job lined up. I'm going to write a book, and I'm gonna do a little health coaching. I'm going to write a book." And he was just, "But wait, you don't have another job?" And I was like, "No, no, I don't have another job lined up." And then also when I told my parents, they were like, "What are you doing? You make more money than your father and I combined, or your mother and I combined. Why would you leave all that? That's so successful." And the bottom line is, even though from the outside I may have looked extremely successful because I was young, I was making a high six figures, I had these great titles, I could pay all my bills in 1 week of my monthly pay, right? And then the rest was savings or paying off student loans or whatever. I just didn't feel successful. I just didn't feel successful. I felt stifled. I felt like I'm a creative person. I felt like all my creative ideas, they were just kind of left in the dust. I had to follow the status quo of what, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it kind of thing. And that's just not my way. So from the outside looking in, it looked like I was really successful. And financially, sure, I was. From a title perspective, moving up the ladder, sure, I was. But personally, I didn't feel that way because I felt like my impact on helping others was not being fulfilled. in the way that I wanted to fulfill it. I wanted to have a more direct impact on helping others. And once I left, even though I wasn't making any money after I left for the longest time, I felt more successful than I ever had in my life. And from the outside looking in, people might have said, that's not success. What is wrong with you? But I felt more successful because I felt like I was fulfilling my purpose.
I totally relate to that in so many ways. Listen, we could talk about this all day long, and I'm sure there have been days when we have, but we're almost out of time. And I would love for you to, before we go, for you to leave some do's and don'ts with our audience, some do's and don'ts for really getting some true success in our lives.
Yeah, so the first do is do measure your success based on what's important to you personally. To follow that with a don't is don't measure your success on what other people think about you or what you're doing, right? Of course, we all have obligations. We have obligations to ourselves, to our family, to our friends. If we're supporting others, we have to make money, right? We have to pay the bills. We have to put a roof over our head. We have to have a vehicle to get us from point A to point B. We have to have food to eat, right? So I'm not telling you just run out and quit your job and just go be happy and float around, right? We do have responsibilities in life and we have to live. But so don't just quit, do have a plan in place. So if you are not feeling fulfilled or that you're passionate and purposeful in what you're doing in life from a career standpoint, do put a plan in place for making your exit, for moving on to the thing that's going to find you that happiness that's ultimately going to help you to feel more successful and then be more successful across all facets of your life. And that plan could be a transitionary job, a part-time job while you're getting your daily grind up and running for whatever, if you're starting a business or whatever it may be, or it could be saving up, right? Just cutting back on certain things that are unnecessarily, building a nest egg so that if your passion is to go out and do something completely different, go do it. Do continue to educate yourself. That's a really important aspect of personal growth and development. Do volunteer and do get involved in your community. This is one of the things that brings the greatest happiness returns, is being involved in a community, volunteering, giving your time, helping others has the greatest return on happiness. So do get involved in your community, do help others. That is one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give you. Because as we were talking about earlier, as Dr. Davia mentioned, is that community is going to be there to help you at the end of the day when you do need that support and you do need that help. But one caveat here is you can't just take. You have to give as well. You can't just expect to sit back and say, okay, I joined this group, now you're all going to help me. No, you have to be willing to give and get. It doesn't mean overextending yourself, but you have to give selflessly, not expecting in return. And that's how you build that social capital.
I love all of that. We're going to obviously, Shannon, have to have you back and keep this conversation going because this is such a deep and rich topic. And there's so much more that we're going to be able to mine from this. I'm going to ask you to stay on after we're done with this portion of the conversation and just stay on, and maybe we can have some Q&A with any of our viewers who might be on the call with us today. As always, I pulled a card for us, and it's no surprise that the card is so spot on. It says going beyond normal. And this is from the Sacred Rebels Guidebook by Alana Fairchild. And she says, on the path of life, there are deciding moments where we can choose to go the mainstream. We can dare to take a bolder, more authentic and trusting way, even if it seems riskier or less safe. To rely solely on logic and science without incorporating the mysterious and magical is a recipe for an experience that is far too dry. The sacred rebel within our hearts will always choose a juicier approach to life. You're currently approaching such a choice point. You could say that the choice is about balance. It's less about choosing to honor either art or science, gardening or architecture, and more about integrating all approaches so that you enhance rather than hinder your life journey. You are being asked to stay open to the intuitive approach in your life, your work, your creativity, as well as in your spiritual journey. The intuitive approach can be likened to the method of a gardener or an artist. It's such a beautiful card, and it feels like it's so appropriate for what we're
It
talking
does.
about. We're talking about being successful and not necessarily following the traditional paths that have been laid out for us, but being open to other opportunities that the universe might be exploring for us on our behalf. So Shannon, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. I
Thank
want to
you.
invite all our guests who are joining us to stick around after the credits, and we're going to have some juicy conversation about really what this success thing is all about. And I want to say to everybody who's watching us on the replays, on the streaming services, we'll see you guys on the next show. Bye, everyone.
Bye.